I have a feeling if any WrestleMania review in this whole entire WrestleMania review series is going to elicit any strong emotions out of any of you and perhaps get you to take to your flaming keyboard fingers of fire, this is going to be the bad boy right here. This is the one that I think a lot of you have been eagerly anticipating because you know I definitely veer outside of the norm when it comes to the opinion and perspective on WrestleMania 17. Now, why is that? Is it one of these things where it's just because I want to be different? No. Is it because I love shows like 3 and 14 so much that I refuse to put 17 in its rightful place? No. Because in the grand scheme of things, I don't think 17 measures up as a total package of a WrestleMania compared to a 3 or a 14. Now, some of you will sit there and say, well, you can't judge it based off of its history. You can only judge it based off of the actual show itself. Well, that's fucking stupid, and I'll tell you why. This is a WrestleMania review series where I have the benefit of going back and looking at history. And part of a show, even as it happens, is what happens during the show and what it's setting up to happen after the fact. So that is a part of the grade. And when you go back and grade these older shows, you do have that perspective. You do have that scope. So sometimes that may elevate the grade of an event a little bit based off of what came out of it, historical significance, what have you. And sometimes it will deflate and devalue a grade a little bit. Tough shit. That's just the way it is. And now look, in terms of in-ring quality, I suppose you could definitely say that this is one of the better WrestleManias of all time. And you won't get a lot of disagreement with me on that. You will not. This had several matches that were really damn good. But I start to wonder if this is one of these things where because there were a few matches on the show that were really good, which there were a few matches that were really good, 2 outstanding, that's the only thing anybody focuses on. And because somebody like a Dave Meltzer tells you, or a Brian Alvarez tells you, or whoever the hell else tells you, that this is the best WrestleMania of all time and maybe the best WWF pay-per-view of all time, that you start to believe it and you start to buy into the bullshit. And I say, whoa, let's pump the brakes and let's think about this here for a second. And let's not go so fast. I think it's one of these things sometimes that as time goes along and history goes along, we start to view things from a nostalgic standpoint, and that raises the value a little bit more than it deserves to be. So let's talk about the show, and then I'll talk about maybe some of the positives about the show, and then talk about the fact of why I don't like this event and why somebody like me doesn't think this is one of the all-time great WrestleManias, because I do not, and I never will, no matter what anybody is going to say. So yes, like I said again, get your flaming keyboard fingers of fire ready to go. Join the Marcus Smart posse if you want. I don't care. Anyways, so the show kicked off with Chris Jericho versus William Regal in an Intercontinental Championship match. Fun feud. Would you like a spot of pee, Mr. Regal? Jericho peed in his coffee cup. This was an interesting, fun feud. However, I don't think this match was all that particularly good. Just a solid opener, but we've had better opening matches on a WrestleMania card. There's no question about that. And I think it's one of these things, again, that because Regal never really got a big-time main event push, that some people think over the years that maybe William Regal was a little bit better than he really was. Regal was perfect in this role. He's a perfect type of mid-card IC type of guy that go out there and have an engaging, entertaining feud. That's what you got here. A good opener, but not spectacular, not one of the all-time memorable matches. The 6-man tag, when people say there wasn't a bad match on this card, I wouldn't call this match bad, but it wasn't exactly good either, and it wasn't very long. Taz and the Acolytes versus the Right to Censor. I liked the Right to Censor gimmick, even though I think ultimately it really killed Godfather and Val Venus. But hey, that's what it was kind of designed to do. It was designed to kind of clean up things a little bit, especially now, since WWF didn't have the pressures of competing against a WCW and ECW. They didn't need to quite go there as much with characters like a porn star like Val Venus. Hello, ladies. Or the Godfather. Let's get him on the whole train. And then at this point in time, by 2001, Taz is being criminally misutilized. Put it that way. And that's what it was. So nothing memorable really about this match. The triple threat match for the Hardcore Championship between Caden, Raven, and Big Show was a lot of fun. I love the golf cart. Was it Raven? Got its leg run over it. This was a fun match. That's why I liked the Hardcore Championship, because it forced them to be creative and do stuff out of the box. And this was a fun match to watch. I will give it that. Eddie Guerrero defeats Test to win the European Championship. Kind of is what it is. Eddie Guerrero, being able to watch him and see the genius of him as a performer is what really stands out here. This was not a great match by any stretch of the imagination. It was just kind of eh. So once you get through the first 4 matches on the card, this is not a particularly great show. You have one really fun match, but those that say that this show didn't have a terrible match on the card or a bad match on the card, every match was really good, I don't know about all that. We're starting to get some revisionist history here on what we're thinking, and that's just through the first 4 matches on the card. One of my favorite matches on this card, though, has to be Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit. One of those elements that I think every great WrestleMania should have is that mid-card feud between 2 guys where it's about personal issues, it's about beef, it's about who's the better man, and that's it. Not a bunch of intricate bullshit, not a bunch of this, not a bunch of that. Just these 2 guys go out there and put on a show. Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, really good mid-card WrestleMania match. Not the type of match you might expect from a WWE, at a big pay-per-view now, where you'd send out 2 guys like this and it would feel like a Raw or SmackDown match. This felt like a pay-per-view match. This felt like a Big 4 pay-per-view match. Most importantly of all, this felt like it was perfectly positioned on the WrestleMania card, because it exactly was. One terrible match on this card that just didn't work. If they were going to have Chyna beat Ivory so quickly to win the Women's Championship, then why not just have Chyna completely and totally squash her and beat her in like 30 or 45 seconds? I get the whole concept of kind of what they were doing with Chyna here, but not really. Yeah, forgettable. So again, if you sit there and say there wasn't a bad match on this card, look at the Women's Championship match, at least, if nothing else. And then you get the street fight with Mick Foley as a special guest referee, Shane McMahon taking on Mr. McMahon. And how appropriate it is that a match involving the McMahons is all about the McMahons. Now, this would be one of these matches here, in my opinion, that in 2014, if it took place, everybody would be bitching about how the focus was away from the in-ring action, and you were doing this and doing that, and you had all this overbooked bullshit. It's exactly what a lot of people that praise this match and praise this fucking show would say about it now in 2014. Because you've got Trish and Stephanie going after each other. Yes, that's kind of fap-worthy, I suppose. You've got freaking Linda getting involved, Mick Foley getting involved, and all of this and all of that. Now, the setup to this was kind of cool in the sense that the Raw before WrestleMania, there's Shane McMahon appearing live on Nitro, simulcast, with Vince appearing on WWF Raw. I mean, Nitro, Raw, here's 2 McMahons. This was fucking kind of cool. This was one of those once-in-a-lifetime things that you never thought you would see, and you'll never see again. The setup to it was kind of cool. It almost feels like sometimes that Vince McMahon ultimately bought WCW just to have the opportunity to throw Shane onto Nitro there on TBS or TNT, whatever, and TNT, and advertise WrestleMania 17 to a couple of million fans watching on television. Well, you figure he paid, $4 or $5 million for WCW. Sometimes I think that's the only thing that Vince ever did. He bought it. He's like, well, what the fuck am I going to do with it now? I'm going to send Shane on TV, and we're going to promote WrestleMania 17 on TNT on Monday Nitro. Like I said, it's a cool, kind of spectacular moment, but I got other feelings about that too. But Shane beats Vince here. This was a typical type of fun street fight you would expect out of these 2 guys. Guys that when they do something, it means something. Shane obviously being the better athlete. Vince really knowing how to sell things, how to sell facials, how to sell moments. Vince didn't do a ton, but what he did, he made matter and he made it count. If I ever wanted to have somebody in a street fight, one of the 2 opponents I'd always want would be a Vincent K. McMahon working as a heel, because he can make it work. He can really make it work, and this match really works. Now, clearly the best match on this card was the next one. That was a triple threat TLC match for the WWF Tag Team Championships. Edge and Christian, the Dudleys, and the Hardys. My only ever complaint about this match is that it's another big match that Edge and Christian won. Why couldn't they have thrown a freaking Baron to the Dudleys or to the Hardys here? Other than that, this was outstanding. These guys had a really good match at WrestleMania 16, and they topped themselves and really stole the show here at WrestleMania 17. This is definitely one of the all-time great WrestleMania matches. I mean, they were doing all types of phenomenal, crazy shit, and 3 of the great tag teams in wrestling during this time, and maybe, dare I say, of all time. An outstanding, incredible match. A type of match today that realistically you could probably have main event a WrestleMania. It was so damn good. Then you got the 20-man gimmick battle royal. I mean, this was fun in the sense that you got to see Bobby the Brain Heenan and Mean Gene Okerlund, and that's all fine and good. I always thought maybe Kamala should have won this since you were in Houston, Texas. You were there at the Reliant Astrodome, but I'm not going to complain, Bubba, about the Iron Sheik winning the Royal Rumble because he said a fuck at the Brian Blair. That's right. So Iron Sheik winning here is kind of cool. I mean, having Sergeant Slaughter put him in the Cobra Clutch afterwards, I'm like, oh, come on. Just let Sheiky Baby have his moment. Maybe he smoked some of the medicine afterwards backstage. You know what I mean? God damn it all. That still kind of aggravates me. Just let Sheik have his damn moment. A fun battle royal that was only a few minutes, and that's all it needed to be. And, it doesn't really count for much of anything, frankly. And then you get The Undertaker versus Triple H the first time, which WWE didn't want to recognize until after they fought again at WrestleMania 27 for whatever dumb fuck reason. But this, again, was a really good match. This was when they were starting to, I think, really catch on to the concept that, hey, Taker's never lost at a WrestleMania. They hadn't fully started to emphasize it as a huge deal, but they were starting to play on it. They were starting to mention it more and maybe starting to catch on to the fact that, hey, this might be something. This is something we can potentially market. And now you look at 2014, it's the only reason Taker ever fucking comes back is to defend the streak at WrestleMania. Now, is this the best of the three matches between Undertaker and Triple H? I don't know. It could be. I would probably say either this one or the third one. But I don't think it's the worst of the three. I would probably say out of the three, maybe the one at 27 was the worst of the three. Not that that was a bad match, because that was one of the two matches that really was actually good on that freaking shitty WrestleMania. But a good match here, a good match here. Now, here's one of these things that I have to get off my chest, is that I understand that a lot of you care about in-ring quality and care about match quality, and that's fine. But I'm sorry, to me, that is not the only measure of a great show. That is one part of it. You can maybe make it a big part of it, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it is about more than just that. The show's got to be pieced together well. It's got to flow well. It's got to be presented well. It's got to have some significance and impact. It's got to have some memorable WrestleMania moments, what have you. I'm not saying that this show didn't have memorable WrestleMania moments, but we get to the main event. And I'm sorry. I will never advocate this main event. This is one of the dumbest fucking matches in WWF history. This is one of the dumbest fucking booking decisions, if not the dumbest booking decision in WWF history. You take a guy in Stone Cold Steve Austin. I don't give a damn whose idea it was. It was stupid. You take Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was the hero to millions, who became the face of the WWF in their war against WCW. Make no mistake about it. It wasn't going to end until either Ted Turner put Vince out of business or Vince put Ted Turner out of business. You take the guy in Stone Cold Steve Austin that millions of people viewed as the ultimate true hero of the common man and decide, because you fucking can, you're going to turn him heel and align him with, of all fucking people, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. You want to talk about vomiting in my mouth. You want to talk about a disgusting decision. This is not even a good heel turn. The people didn't want to see this. For all the people that sit there and always say, and all these so-called professional wrestling journalists that sit there and say, oh, Vince McMahon always believes in sending the people home happy. Well, they sure the fuck didn't at WrestleMania 17. And I'm sorry, this was the main event featuring the two biggest stars, and you can argue throwing in Vince easily, the three biggest stars of the Attitude Era. You've got The Rock, you've got Stone Cold Steve Austin, and you throw Vincent K. McMahon in there. It's a no disqualification match, WWF Championship. These guys had a great match at WrestleMania 15. I would have thought they were going to have a great one here, and just let's see who the best man is. But no. You just couldn't do that. And do you want to know why, ladies and gentlemen? It was because Vince was now God of professional wrestling and it had been validated. And one of the reasons I always hate this fucking pay-per-view so much is because of what it represents. It represents the death of WCW. It represents to me the death of ECW. It represents the death to me of a great time in the history of professional wrestling. A time that a lot of you proclaim yourselves to love, but frankly are too fucking young or didn't even live during it to even experience it or even damn understand it. At one point in time, we had not one, not two, but three wrestling companies that all found different ways to entertain us, and we could barely get that half the time out of one damn company today. So you take the common man's hero and a Stone Cold Steve Austin, and you align him with the representation of evil, at a time, mind you, where Vince is just put out of business WCW and ECW, and all the fans know it, and they hate Vince even fucking more. So now you're going to take their hero and fucking align him with Vince. The guy that he's been rebelling against for years. The guy that their feud helped save the WWF from despair in the depths of the abyss of sucking hind tip behind WCW in the damn ratings war. You want to know how fucking stupid this is? This is as stupid as right now in the build-up to WrestleMania 30. If you had Daniel Bryan beat Triple H early in the night, and then come back in the main event, and here comes Triple H, and now all of a sudden fucking Triple H and Daniel Bryan align themselves, and Daniel Bryan is turned heel, and he's joined with the fucking Authority, and he wins the belt and closes the show. How fucking stupid would that be? And I don't care. Yeah, some of you initially, because you'd be too busy sucking off to the thought of Daniel Bryan winning the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, you wouldn't care. But soon after, the reality would set in. Wait a fucking second. They gave me my guy as champion, but now they want me to fucking boo the guy that's my favorite performer that I want to cheer. Why in the bluest of blue fucks would they do that? Because they fucking can. What are the real consequences or repercussions to this? There were none. Or so the WWE would believe. But in 2001, there were consequences and repercussions to this. WCW was gone. ECW was gone. And I always look at WrestleMania 17 as the personification of this. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, Vince McMahon was going to do whatever the fuck he wanted to do now because he no longer had the pressure of having to compete with any damn buddy. So we took our hero during that time, and you can sit there and say, well, The Rock was more over as a babyface at that time. And there's definitely a lot of validation to that. There definitely is. But that doesn't mean Austin needed to fucking turn heel. Hell no. That's ridiculous. That is stupid. It would blow up in their fucking faces in 2014 if they did the same shit with Daniel Bryan. Just really think about that for a second. If you want an understanding of why this would be so damn stupid and so damn idiotic. Imagine Daniel Bryan beating Triple H early in the night and then coming back in the main event and he has to win via Triple H's help. Oh, you can't beat him, join him. So now Daniel Bryan, the guy that you want to cheer, has aligned himself with the corporate evil, the Authority, and now he's the top heel in the company. You guys would hate that shit. You would shit all over it. And you know what? You should shit all over it. Because it would be the ultimate example of the WWE trolling you, saying, we don't give a fuck what you want. We're ultimately going to do things our way no matter what. You can eat shit and like the taste of it. And they would say, what are you going to do? Arrive, bitch, repeat, leave. Arrive, bitch, repeat, leave. You're still going to come back. That's exactly the mentality of the WWF here. And it's not like WrestleMania 17 set up a bunch of awesome-ass shit for the rest of 2001. Ladies and gentlemen, understand this. And maybe, again, this is a generational gap from me being somebody that's now 33 years old to those that are maybe 25 and younger that grew up. Maybe the Attitude Era and the Invasion angle is your Hogan era like it is for me. But that was the shits. The Invasion angle was the shits. I don't care if it gave you the occasional good moment of crash television. It was the shits. You were sitting there and trying to send a fucking single-A, double-A farm team in baseball against Murderers Row, the 1927 New York Yankees, with Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. Everybody would fart at that. And you know why? Because it's not believable and it's fucking ridiculous and it insults the fans' intelligence and it still does to this day. And it still pisses me off, the fact that people come on here and they defend WrestleMania 17 like it's the greatest fucking show of all time. Fuck this show. Yeah, it had some good damn matches. But look at all the trash that it represented. It represented the WWF doing whatever the fuck they wanted to do because they could. It represented the death of WCW and ECW. And whereas with WrestleMania 16, they didn't have the luxury of having Austin and The Undertaker. So two of their top guys weren't there. Two of their top guys were here. Taker had a great match against Triple H. But then you get to the main event, and instead of maybe having Rock have this validating moment, getting some revenge for WrestleMania 15 2 years earlier by beating Austin, or Austin at least winning 100% clean, or even Austin sitting there doing whatever he could, get Vince to align with him, and then after the match stun Vince, and there you go. No! Now he's going to sit there and be Vince McMahon's friend. This was fucking trash. This was fucking stupid. And if you sit there and say, well, one match and one booking decision shouldn't ruin an entire show. Yes, it should, because of everything that it represented and just how fucking ridiculous and stupid it truly was. Like I said, you know goddamn good and well that come WrestleMania 30, if Daniel Bryan only won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship by having Triple H come out and interfere on his behalf, and then Daniel Bryan aligns himself with the Authority, and they are one big heel group together, and Daniel Bryan now is supposed to be the top heel in the company when everybody wants to fucking cheer the guy. You would shit all over that WrestleMania. It wouldn't matter if there were several other, great matches on the card. You would say this was stupid, this is shit, the WWE is shitting on us, they're doing whatever the fuck they want. Easily one of the worst WrestleManias of all time. But no, not when you have 13 years of fucking propaganda from the WWF, people involved with the WWF, and people like Dave Meltzer and etc., and all these other fans in the internet wrestling community being shoved down your throat year after year after year. Well, I tell you what, a lot of other people might swallow that shit and like the taste of it, but I don't. This is a good show with some good shit on it. But at the end of the day, I hate this fucking WrestleMania. I hate its stinking guts because of everything that it represents. And to me, it's the ultimate example of Vince saying, up yours, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want, and you can eat shit and like the taste of it. Well, you know what? 2001, ironically enough, wasn't exactly a great banner year for the WWF by the end of the year. And this shit, all to me, really truly started right around WrestleMania 17 and with WrestleMania 17 itself. Oh, Steve was funny in that heel role. No, it was fucking stupid. He was aligning himself with Vince McMahon. I'll never forgive the company for that shit. You took one of our heroes of the common man. You took the man of the Attitude Era, the face of the Attitude Era, your conquering hero, and you aligned him with the epitome of corporate evil. That makes absolutely no fucking sense on God's green earth. To hell with this WrestleMania. Some of you like it, that's your business, I don't care. That doesn't mean I'm ever going to like it. Just because there were a few good matches on this show does not make it a great show. And it sure as fuck does not make it a better show to me than a WrestleMania 14, which almost every single match on the card was really good, and it was paced very well, and the crowd reactions were great, and so many things about it were great. Or a WrestleMania 3 that had some more significant, memorable moments, in my opinion, including the main event, the first real great WrestleMania match of all time. Oh, and by the way, they drew 93,173 people. One of the best things about the show, frankly, was the commentary team of Jim Ross and Paul Heyman. That was good. I hate WrestleMania 17. At least next I get to talk about WrestleMania 18 and one match in particular. But fuck this show. And if you don't like what I have to say about it, that's just too damn bad. You might not always like what I have to say, but at least you know I'm always going to tell you how it is and how I feel about it. And this show is the most overrated piece of trash in the history of the WWE, in my opinion.